Welcome back, everyone, to Conversations with Azu, the Vitality and More podcast. I'm truly honoured that you're joining me for another one. In this episode, I'm sharing honestly about why I almost walked away from podcasting. The pressure to hustle, to perform, to follow every rule, and to keep proving myself online. This is a conversation about authenticity, burnout, and returning to the heart of why I started in the first place. Real uplifting conversations that help us live with more awareness, truth, and connection. So, welcome back to episode 25. Today's episode is a really honest one because for a little while, I genuinely thought about quitting podcasting. Yep, I did. Not because I don't love speaking, not because I don't love connecting, and not because I don't believe in the power of conversations that awaken something meaningful in us, but because I got tired of the hustle, tired of the constant noise around what I should be doing to grow my podcast show. Tired of being told to post more on social media, to show up more, to be more visible, to push harder, to optimize everything, to make my titles clearer, to add stronger calls to action, to follow the formula, to package my words in a way that fits what supposedly performs best. And if I'm honest, after a while, it all started to feel really heavy for me. It started to feel like the heart of why I was podcasting was getting buried under advice, rules, and strategies that may work for some people, but just didn't feel true for me. And that's why I want to talk about this today. I want to talk about, well, what happens when your creative expression starts to feel like a performance. And you'll notice that if you've listened to the previous episodes, there is a little bit of a theme going on here. You see, when the thing you once loved starts to feel like pressure, when something that began as a genuine offering suddenly feels like it's being measured by algorithms, marketing advice, and invisible standards that tell you you're not doing enough. Because I know I'm not the only one who has felt this. There is so much messaging out there that says if you want to grow, you have to play the game. You have to be strategic. You have to make everything searchable, clickable, optimized, measurable. You have to keep feeding the machine. But that doesn't work for me. Maybe it does help the numbers. Maybe it increases the reach and downloads. Maybe it builds momentum in a way that looks successful from the outside. But you see, I had to stop and ask myself a deeper question. At what cost? At what point do we become so focused on being seen that we lose sight of what we actually want to say? At what point do we become so concerned with reach, relevance, and visibility that we disconnect from our own voice? And at what point do we begin creating from fear instead of truth? That's where I found myself. That's a big one for me. Not fully out of alignment, but close enough to feel the tension. Close enough to notice that something sacred was being replaced by something performative. Close enough to realize I was spending more energy thinking about how to present the message than actually living inside the message. And that's when I knew I had to pause, not necessarily to quit forever, but to really ask myself why I was doing this in the first place. And the answer that came through was actually very simple. I podcast because I love real conversations. I podcast because I love expressing what feels true in the moment. I podcast because I want to create conversations that are relevant, uplifting, and honest. Conversations that don't just skim the surface, but invite us back into ourselves, back into awareness, back into presence, and back into the heart. That has always mattered more to me than sounding polished, more than following trends, more than doing what everyone says is necessary to grow. Because you know what? The truth is this: not all growth can be measured in downloads, not all impact can be captured in analytics. And not all meaningful work is going to fit neatly into the rules of online visibility these days. Some things are quieter than that. Some things work on a deeper level. One person hearing exactly what they needed to hear, one conversation shifting someone's perspective, one episode helping someone feel less alone, one honest reflection becoming the permission slip another person needed to come back to themselves. That's what matters most. That's what matters to me. And I think in a world where everyone is being encouraged to be louder, faster, more visible, more marketable, there is something deeply healing about choosing depth over performance. There is something deeply healing about choosing sincerity over strategy when strategy starts to suffocate the soul of what you are creating. Now, I'm not saying strategy is bad. I'm not saying clear titles are bad or that calls to actions are bad or social media for that matter, because I'm always there. Those things can absolutely be useful tools, but tools should support your voice, not replace it. And that is the key lesson here. Advice should help you come home to your expression, not pull you further away from it. And if following the so called right steps leaves you feeling disconnected, drained, or creatively numb, then maybe it's worth questioning whether those steps are actually right for you. Because maybe your path isn't supposed to look like everyone else's. Maybe your show isn't meant to be built on formulas and algorithms and SEOs. Maybe your voice carries something that can only come through when you stop trying to make it fit. And maybe the people who are meant to find you will find you, not because you mastered every marketing rule, but because what you share is real. I needed to remember that. I needed to remember that I started this to speak from the heart, not to constantly self monitor every sentence through the lens of whether it will perform well or not. I needed to remember that expression is not the same as branding, connection is not the same as visibility, and being impactful is not the same as being everywhere. So, if you're listening to this and you've been feeling tired too, tired of trying to keep up, tired of trying to be visible, tired of trying to make your work fit what the world says it needs to be, I just want to say this to you. You are allowed to do it differently. You are allowed to question the rules. You are allowed to redefine success in a way that feels nourishing instead of depleting. You are allowed to create from a place of honesty, even if it doesn't look as polished or strategic as what everyone else is doing. And you are allowed to trust that what is real carries its own kind of power. For me, this episode is a line in the sand. It's me choosing to keep podcasting, but to do it in a way that feels more aligned, more spacious, more expansive, more true to me. It's me letting go of the idea that I have to follow every rule in order to be worthy of being heard, listened, or downloaded. It's me remembering that my voice is not valuable because it is perfectly packaged. It is valuable because it is honest. And if this resonates with you, then maybe this is your reminder too. You don't need to become more performative to be meaningful. You don't need to become more visible to be valuable. You don't need to force yourself into a mold that was never made for your voice. You can choose depth. You can choose truth. You can choose heart. And from that place, you can keep going. Thank you for being here with me on this conversation today. Thank you for listening with an open heart. And thank you for giving me space to the parts of this journey that are not polished, not perfect, but deeply human. If this episode spoke to you, take whatever landed and sit with it. Let it meet you where you are. And if you feel called to write a comment or share, then please do that. And again, if you feel called to come back for the next episode, guess what? I'll be here. Until next time, keep listening to your own rhythm, keep honoring your truth, and keep living as close to your heart as you can. Namaste, beautiful people.